Okay, the recording session is now live. So just give a nice count in your head up to 5, and then you can begin. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Thomas Swinnen. I will talk today about the future of work. And for that, of course, I will use my experience as a technical marketing engineer in Cisco Enterprise Networking, Cisco Business Networking, as well as Meraki Networking. And like most of you today in the session, I have been working basically a lot from home in the last 2 years. Now, obviously, 2 years in the IT world, it's quite a lot. And we've seen a lot of enhancements on that field. One of the enhancements were, well, we started with secure remote working. And at some point, we started to look into technology for increased productivity and efficiency. Now, we've seen these improvements happening basically always on the remote working environment. So powered by hardware, obviously, because we still need to access the network from our homes. And we've seen that even in certain occasions, we saw business endpoints appearing in homes. But I believe the most important aspect here to look into, the most important products are software related. Basically, more security, how to connect to applications like dual factor authentication, also securing your connections to the cloud powered by Umbrella. Of course, also be sure that whatever connections or device you have, it's protected with antivirus or malware protections, and then you can power that with Helm. That is what we have seen growing in the last 2 years, and technology, of course, grew with us in this journey. The question, however, is how does the office look like today? And specifically, it hasn't really been evolved in the last 2 years, while we did. At least not us, but the applications we use. So they are, of course, they now require more throughput, more performance. And we also see that the threats out there have also been improved in the last 2 years. So how are we going to fix, or let's say, how do we catch up the office? 2 things to be aware of. Obviously, again, the hardware. Let's make sure the performance we have is increased up to the requirements of current applications. And second of all, let's use what has been evolved at home, and let's use that now across the entire deployment. So we can also have the same security benefits also spread over to the office. We also power that obviously with identity-based securities, and we can also have increased productivity or connectivity between sites, home offices, using SD-WAN deployments if required. If not, you can always fall back to IPsec or one MACsec. And I will talk about these 2 features, of course, later on in the slides. Geographically speaking, these are different areas. From an IT perspective, this is one area, one network, and we need to behave this as such. So, of course, we then rely on centralized applications for increased productivity, performance, connectivity, as well as management. And these are just some examples you can fall back to have that centralized visibility. But obviously, we're going to talk about the office today. How do we get the office up to speed? And for that, we're going to use products that are right now, right here available. So that's the good thing about this. Everything you will see here today, you can do right now. Let's zoom in on the office. Now, obviously, we need to get this office up and running, and we do that in 4 different steps today. So we're going to increase the performance. We're going to increase the flexibility of our remote sites connecting to our, of course, central sites. We're going to increase visibility on user behavior as well as spaces. And in the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about centralized management, because now we talk about different platforms, and they're all managed using their own dashboards. So how do we fix that? There's an opportunity out there, first of all, to increase the performance. There's an opportunity of hardware replacements. We have $4 billion in switching worldwide, which we can rely on upgrading, migrating. There are still 9 million access points that need to be migrated to Wi-Fi 6. So that's a little bit of a flash snapshot about the opportunity out there. Let's just see how we are going to do this. First of all, let's zoom in on the network layer, the wired connections. Recently, Cisco released the new Catalyst 9000X range, and we're going to use a 9300X as an example in this case. These are just some examples of the benefits that this device brings. And I'm not going to talk about all of them because we don't have the time for that, but I'm going to highlight these specific elements. Obviously, they have to do a lot with flexibility, security, as well as performance increase. I'm going to highlight them using the next coming slides. The network itself, the campus, so this is a campus size, so this is rather large. And a typical campus deployment exists out of 3 different layers, as we know: the access layer, the distribution layer, and the core layer. The difference now is that we see 100 gigabit connections to the access layer. Why does this make sense? I'm working from home now. Usually I'm the only person working from home. My network connection is solely for me. So this means that I have no interruptions from other users, and my bandwidth is quite high. So I have full performance on my dedicated to myself. All my files, at least most of them, they are stored in the cloud or in the data center from the office. So I need a sustainable connection to those cloud applications. High demanding connections. When you look here, let's take a look at this mixed stack in the access layer. We have 6 devices, 6 switches, all gigabit connections, all fine. But if you connect them over a 10 gig uplink, not so fine. So that's the reason why we need to look into upgrading those uplink connections and bring the 100 gig to the access. Do we always need 3 levels? We don't. If you are zooming in on small-sized campuses, you can of course use a collapsed access connecting to the core. One single stack of 9300 or 9300X. When you use 9300X solely, you can increase the stacking bandwidth up to 1 terabit per second, just for your knowledge. When you talk about mid-size and larger sized campus networks, then obviously you need to maintain that structure. Why is that? Now, obviously, we see here a distribution layer powered by 9500. These Catalyst devices are, well, super important for larger sized campuses because they do support more MAC addresses than the 9300 do. They support more access lists. Just one example, the 9300 supports 5,000 access lists, the 9300X 8,000, but the 9500H, that one supports 27,000 access lists. So here you'll see the importance of putting the 9500s in the distribution. Now that's all I have to say about the large-sized deployments. Does it mean that the branch is still bound to 10 gig? Not at all. We can also deploy a collapsed core on the branch. And if you have more than 10, 20, or 25 users, you might also start to deploy an access layer. So you will have also 100 gig to your access layer. Same performance, same devices. So let's take a look at that branch site here. Let's take a look at the smaller deployments, because there is something extra in these devices that we're going to leverage today. And this extra is called the branch in a box. It's no longer just a switch. We can deploy virtual machines on it. And from now, recently, we can start building IPsec connections straight from that box to the central campus core, to the cloud for secure web traffic. We do that using a secure IPsec connection from our Cat9K to the central site routers. Or, and then of course in the other case, we can connect IPsec connections to the Umbrella Cloud or Zscaler for SASE connections for secure web access. I have to tell you that this is a new feature. It's introduced in the 9300s, but the 9300X is doing all of that in hardware. This means that you will have no impact on the performance of that switch. This means that you will have up to 100 gigabits of IPsec throughput on that switch, which is pretty amazing. So these high-end switches, they also have a place in smaller branches. When you talk about the brownfield, you probably already have a site-to-site, you already have MPLS connections, so you don't need to have this IPsec technology. But then at least you can fall back to the existing WAN MACsec technology, encrypting layer 2 traffic over from your central site to your branch offices, straight into the core from the central site. This does not need to be an Xbox, an Xbox 29200X system or a 9300 system. So you can straight do that from Catalyst to Catalyst. This is a technology which is already out there since quite a while, and also powered by your newer switches. How to control this? Because that's the next step. Now, of course, this device can do that. How to configure all of that? I will give you two options. Either you have DNA center, and then it's very easy to visually configure all of these tunnels, even from site to site, as well as from site to SASE, Secure Access Services Edge connections, to Umbrella SIG, Secure Internet Gateways. If you don't have DNA center in place, you can deploy a virtual machine on your box, which is doing the configuration. You build a VRF and create site-to-site connections right on that system. There are other virtual applications you can deploy on a system. Let's say an agent from Thousand Eyes, which is now fully incorporated within Cisco's Catalyst systems. You can visualize all the traffic to your cloud applications and understand where in this entire journey problems rise. So you can all get this information back into your dashboard. You don't have to fully focus on Thousand Eyes to get statistics out of the network. You can also deploy your own browser bots. You can have page load test browser bots included, as well as transaction test browser bots. All of these applications can be deployed on your system, and then the data can be exported into one of these dashboards. Could be DNA Center, could be your own dashboard. So let's talk a little bit about the space itself, because now we have an improved, I promise you to talk about 4 different elements here, 2 already tackled. The performance, the flexibility of deploying central and remote sites. Now, third of all, the space. We are welcoming our colleagues back into the office. Now, one thing to be aware of is the density of people that we of course can welcome, the amount of guests that we of course also welcome. To keep an eye on the amount of people, we can fall back to these digital signage dashboards. And this information is coming from the network, because access points as well as Catalyst switches can now start to talk to DNA spaces to report the amount of visitors you have in the network. We can have reports on Wi-Fi traffic. We can have reports on BLE, so Bluetooth connections, as well as RFID chips that you can put into batches for visitors, that you can count how many people you have. Now we can also extract that traffic information from the 9300X using MDT model-driven telemetry. So we can extract that information from 802.1x connections, so you always understand how many users you have connected. That's in a space, in an office space, where people are usually connected to the Wi-Fi or the network. When you do not have an office space, like retail, stores, bars, restaurants, these kind of deployments, where typically users are not connected to the network, or not so much, then you can always go and take a look at the cameras themselves, because the MV cams, they do screening of body counts, and they can report on the exact same statistics and put that also into digital signage. But now you will have a full view of even unconnected clients. Then you can get this footfall, the presence, how long people are present in your location, as well as the right now statistics. So that was a sidetrack. Let's go back to the office. The office here, we also see that there's another business unit here we also have to be aware of. The business unit that is trying to improve the building itself to become smart. A lot of applications, and more are using Bonjour as our standard for communicating between their applications and, of course, the central site to the central dashboards to report on what's going on. So all of these applications are more and more using Bonjour as the standard. So please then make sure that your new network equipment is also capable of understanding the Bonjour standard. There are a few other elements in here that we also can start to deploy when you talk about smart buildings, and that is the air quality, the humidity, and the temperature. If you have seen that previous slide a bit more close up with my digital signage board, you might have detected that these elements were also populated in that digital signage. So what's the air quality in your meeting room? What's the humidity in your office? And what's the temperature right now? These are also part of the smart buildings. And as a good thing, as a positive note, Cisco is building these sensors more and more into their equipment. So the newest Catalyst 9136i, the new Wi-Fi 6E access point, has all of these 3 built in. So you can extract the information from where the AP is hanging in that specific meeting room, in that specific location. And that information can then be brought to signage boards or to one of these applications you can build. That's tackling the smart sensors. Now, obviously, I have been talking here quite extensively about different technologies, multi-architecture technologies, mainly in the enterprise world, but also small business deployments. And I do understand that in some cases, the customer is not looking for DNA center or enterprise equipment. In some cases, Cisco business devices might be perfectly suitable or sufficient in that case. This has its own dashboard, which is called Cisco Business Dashboard. Now, in other cases, we might have a shop somewhere in a city center where we need to have a cloud managed system like Meraki. Still within the same customer, we have two different technologies now running and, of course, powered on, differently managed using the Meraki system dashboard. And thirdly, we might have a data center which is requiring those new high throughput that the Catalyst 9300X is supporting, which can be powered by or managed by Cisco DNA Spaces. 3 different dashboards. And I usually get this question coming back from customers. Thomas, we have different management platforms. How can we keep an eye on the entire network? Because this is one single customer. So for that, I have, of course, one option here. And I'm going to show you that with a little demonstration. Alexa, analyze my network.
First, your Cisco business branch is fully operational and no heavy consumers are detected. Second, your HQ is reporting an increased load on your core switch exceeding the set threshold. Third, your Meraki-powered retail network is reporting a guest consuming 1.5 gigabytes of YouTube traffic. Shall I apply the restricted video use policy?
Yes.
Restricted video use policy applied to Thomas Samsung S10 in your Meraki-powered retail.
I have a script running that is connecting to all of these 3 different branches. It doesn't matter what technology you use. You can extract the information you need. You can change the configuration that needs to be changed. In my example here, my home situation in this case, I've now locked my own client out of YouTube use because I applied the group policy of YouTube restricted video policy for my client. Now, of course, for that, we need to understand the openness that these platforms have. They all support APIs. So you can connect all of these technologies into one single dashboard. So yes, there is no standard platform or dashboard that you can now use, but you can build your own. The additional power you have now is making customized or custom-built solutions for your customers with your logo on the top left corner from this dashboard. You sell your brand and not Cisco. It's powered by Cisco, but it's your solution. So what you've seen here is just an API connection. And if you would like to know more about that, we have, of course, trainings because we find it super important that all of our customers is enabled with this power, with these capabilities. We have trainings available. Get in touch with your account managers, with your BDMs, and let's schedule a session to get you up to speed with the power of these solutions. So that was my brief session about the future of work. Now we all see that it's hybrid and the office is coming back, but it has some catching up to do. These 4 elements have been zoomed into. Let's make sure that the more demanding applications are supported, and then we keep the threats that have been evolved in the last 2 years, that we keep them out. We have a flexible scenario of deployment of connecting branch offices, even smaller sites to HQ. We have full insight and visibility on the space powered by DNA Spaces, and of course the new Cat9KX. And to provide an overlay of visibility and control, please take a look at these APIs and create your own solutions powered by or branded by your own brand. So this was my talk about the future of work, that it's hybrid, and the good thing of all of this, it's here today. So the demonstration about that one was all live. So you can also do this one yourself. Thank you very much for your attention if you have been listening. And to close off, there's one last thing that I'm going to ask from all of you here in the call, and this is a little quiz. I've prepared 5 questions for you to just test your knowledge on the information you have seen in my slides. Thank you very much.
Nicely done.
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, that was really good.
Thank you.
I think
And
this is
spot on
one of the shortest sessions you've ever done, right?
How long was it? Not sure.
It's exactly 20 minutes.
Yes.
But what I was saying is you do so many sessions because everything is so in-depth in enterprise networking and it's so vast that this is the shortest session you've probably ever had to do.
Exactly. So I had to review a few slides and scratch a lot of stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Thomas. And the quiz, you'll share that with me, right, in the coming days?
You need 5 questions and multiple choice?
Yeah, same format, multiple choice.
Okay, so
with
4
options.
yeah,
Yes.
good.
One the correct answer highlighted. And I think I have your photo already, so I'll just use that. If you can drop in your designation you want me to use, Thomas, in the in the events platform, because I'll add your photo and your designation. Can you drop in your designation in the chat here? So I'll just pick it up and
Well, it would be the same as my presentation showed. So technical marketing engineer but I will share that with you if you like.
Okay. All right. Cool. And you'll also have to share your slide deck with me so that I can send it to Alex.
In PDF or PowerPoint?
PDF is fine, right, Alex?
Yeah, that's also fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.